Hello, welcome to Struggles of the Spirit. I'm your host, the Reverend Leland Udell, and we're delighted that you have tuned us in to listen to what we have in store for you today. And it's something different today, something different than what we have talked about recently. I decided that I would like to talk about the year 2000 and in reference to past years and where we might be going, what our hopes might be for the year 2000 and thereafter, which is a lot of thereafters. And so along that line, I have a guest who, like many of us, doesn't like the idea of war and killing one another. And she has gone this last May to The Hague on a trip, along with many other people from all over the world, talking about this subject. How is it possible for us human beings to maybe just stop killing each other? And she is quite verbal on this subject. Her name is Lisa Senecal. She's a student at Rice High School, and I think you'll really enjoy listening to her and her experiences and what she learned at that trip and how it might have reference to our lives here in the States. So welcome. We're delighted to have you here. In terms of where to pick up on this vast subject, maybe the easiest route would be to talk about how you got to The Hague and what you found when you got there, how long a conference it was, and who were some of the other people there that you met, and then we can get into the subject itself.
I applied for a scholarship at the Peace and Justice Center. They had given it to principals and teachers statewide, and we were asked to kind of write an essay about why we'd like to attend, what we feel that we can contribute in going, what can we bring back and sort of bring to our schools or our community or the greater society, anything. So ended up getting chosen by the Peace and Justice Center and with another boy, Seth Ginchard from BHS High School. And we ended up in the Netherlands, so it's just really neat.
How long was the conference?
It's a week-long conference. It was sort of to end the century, to end the millennium, sort of talking about how can we reconcile all this stuff, how can we come to an understanding of the past, what has it taught us, and where are we going from there, what can we do? You
were there in December? No, it was May.
In May. Yeah. But they amended the agenda, the initial agenda, to sort of present to us. We just got it recently, so that's the new agenda. And then
are they meeting again this May?
This May, I think I did get something in the mail, and there's going to be sort of a follow-up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. I'd love to go, but there is a follow-up, so kind of find out what's happening in terms of changes and whatnot. So. And
you told me it was an international event.
Yes.
It wasn't just people from the United States.
Right.
What countries were generally represented?
There was definitely people from every continent there.
Okay.
I met a lot of children from England were there. They were really neat, very vocal people. In the youth assembly, they really spoke up and they took charge. A lot of the English kids did. They were very vocal. It was nice. It was refreshing to see how much they knew about what was going on and how much they wanted to do, how much energy they had. So that was neat. I met a lot of people from Africa. One boy in particular from the Sudan who had a very hard time getting out of the country because of the civil war that was going on there, and he came with the demands of people in his country because he did get out, so he came with a lot of what the people had to say there. they're just asking for help, asking for us to bring peace to them. It's hard to do. It was hard to kind of take that in.
How would we, the people of the world, bring peace to those in the Sudan? I mean, did he want UN intervention or
well, yeah, definitely. But as he spoke of the northern hemisphere being different, separate from the southern hemisphere, we have a lot more technology in terms of telephones and computers and just being able to communicate with people. And I think that communication is such a large step in bringing peace about. I mean, we have all this ability to be connected all over the world. The world itself is becoming smaller. You know, we're traveling so much and we can just talk with people all over. I think that communication is definitely the first step to resolving conflicts. That's my hope for the new millennium, that we decide that conflict resolution doesn't mean violence. It means resolving things in peaceful terms and in peaceful ways.
Well, there even could be a website that all of you could have sponsored. That I guess I'm no expert in computers, but that anyone anywhere in the world could tune into.
Right. Well, The Hague did actually. They had a website. It was hagueappeal.org.
Is that gone?
Yeah, I think it's still up. So.
It's still up.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of information. We've been networking, like a lot of the children. We exchanged emails, a lot of like the youth.
Excuse me, I'm prejudiced. I'd rather you say youth, maybe, than children. Because when you say children, at least for me, I'm a grandfather. I think of my 4-year-old and 8-year-olds, or young adults.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of young adults there, from about 15 to 23, 24 in the youth assembly itself. So we kind of went and did like a lot of stuff on our own, sort of separate from a lot of the women's issues or like the adult issues. So we felt that we needed to be heard, that the youth, since we're going to be inheriting the world, that we should have a say in what goes on. No one asked us if it's okay to declare war or if it's okay to, make a lot of the decisions that are being made in the world today. And we feel like we need to be a part of that, sort of be right next to the people making the decisions to understand what it is that we're going to actually be faced with later on. I think that's a big part of why maybe conflict resolution isn't where it should be, because I think a lot of people learn later, almost too late, sort of the secrets, and we never get a chance to really share it with each other. And I think we learn a lot through vicarious experiences. As children, as youth, we want to understand what adults are going through and what they have to teach us, because we all have a lot to teach each other. And if we accept that, I think that's a large step into being more peaceful as a culture, as a world culture, really.
Well, I think you yourself and the other young people you were with are in a unique position, really, because you're not weighed down with a lot of the invested interests that adults have, and vocational goals and that are imminent upon us for graduate school or going off to earn a living. In other words, at least in my way of thinking, young people can often speak more honestly, more openly, more directly than we can. It just seems that way. I know with children I have known who are younger than young people, that they often speak the truth, whereas an older older person would be apt to weigh this and weigh that. Well, do I dare to say this, or maybe I shouldn't? And so we hem and we haw, but youth are more apt to put it right out there.
Yeah, well, there was definitely this idealism and this energy and collaborative energy that was really important, I think. We wanted to get something done, you know, and we did, because we felt like a lot of the adults at the conference were talking. There was a lot of dialogue, and they were learning a lot, I'm sure, and they were going to take it back with them to their countries, wherever it may be, to their homes, to their families, to their workplace, whatever it would be. But I feel like we wanted to get something done there. We wanted to accomplish something and take a giant step for youth in general. Just kind of making our demands out there, getting them out there, and we came up with the Youth Agenda for Peace.
Tell us.
And
tell the viewers as well as me. I mean, it sounds that's important to hear.
It was. We were trying to make it as important as the Hague Agenda itself. We presented it to Kofi Annan on the last day at the closing ceremony, just trying to make the world aware that as youth, we're not going to sit back and let stuff happen to us. We're going to go and take control of what happens. It's our future, and that we're in control of it. We're asking for the adults' advice throughout making this, and we were asking for their help and to understand where we were coming from, and they were great about it. But it was just really a different aspect, the dynamics of creating something rather than just sitting there soaking things up, which is important, but we felt like since we're there, like we're going to get this done, and we're going to, you know, just take a giant step really for being heard. It was neat. It was really incredible, the energy that sort of you come back with at Rice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, well, you say you there, you and the others at The Hague, you accomplished some things. Can you share with all of us what kind of things you accomplished? Okay.
The greatest feeling, I think, that I came back with was knowing that there's so many people that desire the same thing, and that it's sort of like when you start losing hope, when you start feeling like you're the only one maybe out there, or there's only a few people out there that really want this, you come back with this feeling of so many people wanting this, that it's very, it's right there, we can accomplish it, you know. Sometimes it seems like so abstract, like the idea of peace and love and just really trusting one another. That's what it really comes down to, but they seem so abstract sometimes that we forget that it's possible, you know. If we find it within ourselves, then we show it openly, you know. It's just really important to change our mindset, really. Just make it not popular to be violent, or actually a lot of The Hague was dedicated to making war, abolishing war, making it illegal, really. The International Criminal Court was a big hot topic there, especially because Kosovo was going on with Milosevic and whatnot. Should he be tried? How would we do this, you know? So there was definitely a lot of things going on. They wanted to abolish war, and I think it's a great idea. Violence isn't an acceptable means to ending conflict, because if we can't sit down and talk to one another, and we're going to go shoot each other instead, and then try to sit down and talk about it, I don't see how that makes it an easier process, or I don't know, a more decisive process, you know? If we can't listen to each other, then before we go to war, then we won't be able to listen to each other after.
It's almost as though the way the world has been in the past, you have to kill a certain number of the enemy, whoever the enemy is, before you think you can begin to talk peace, you know.
Yeah.
And why is it you have to have a quota of how many people you're going to kill before you can talk peace. I don't understand that.
Right.
Thinking, we sometimes see that locally in Vermont, but in every state of the Union, I'm sure, where we all recognize that a certain intersection, highway intersection, is poorly designed, and that there have been several fatal accidents. And we sometimes will bitterly joke, how many people have to die at this intersection before the local government will put up a traffic light? I mean, everyone recognizes that a traffic light is needed, but no one will put it up until a certain number of people have died.
Yeah, well, I think coming out of this century being the bloodiest century, being the most violent and war-filled century, that the pendulum it's going to swing back. I really feel like we're going to learn from that and just say, what did we enjoy more, like the tactics Gandhi used or the tactics of Hitler? You know, what was more effective, really? What touched us more as a people? I mean, Hitler was a terrible man, but he wasn't Times Person of the Century. Einstein was. Why? Because he touched us in a way that affected us in a more important way. And I think that the pendulum is going to swing back, and we're going to have to say and really reassess how the worldview is right now. I mean, we have this ability to talk with everyone so quickly. I mean, the internet gives us connection to anyone, anytime, you know, if we can get everyone connected. But it wouldn't be a difficult thing, and if we can talk about it rather than fight about what we have to. Obviously, there's going to be conflict. That's the bottom line. That's human nature. We're not all going to see things the same way, but how do we resolve that conflict is the question that we're faced with. We have atomic bombs. We have the ability to kill people in massive numbers, and for humanity, that's a scary thing. We're really going to have to reassess how we feel about all this power that we have right now. How are we going to use it for the greater good or to destroy?
Did anyone bring up at The Hague the fact that the United States of America has not wanted to stop landmines?
Yes.
They did?
Yes, it was.
What did they say about that?
There was a very hot topic of landmines and the soldiers, how we recruit below the age of 18. There was a lot of actually anti-American sentiment. The first day that we were in the Netherlands, we were in Amsterdam just for the day before we had to go to the conference. So there was a protest. It was Mother's Day, and there was a protesting the war in Kosovo, and there was a lot of anti-American sentiment there. And I think that they can't realize, because maybe we don't allow it to happen, but not all people in the United States want war or want violence as the means of resolution. Just because we have been very aggressive in the world, like that's been our foreign policy for a very long time. We've tried to be the policemen of the world. And we need to, I think, really sit back and reassess where we feel we're going with that. I mean, it's important to be involved in world affairs. That's obvious. We need to definitely be a player. But how are we going to throw our weight around? Are we going to be influential in a good way or in a destructive way?
Did that seem strange to hear people negatively talking about your country?
It really
Were you defensive at first?
Me. No, I felt like in situations they were right, you know. It felt like I can see where this person's coming from. It made other countries very real. The problems that were going on in other countries very real to me. Especially seeing people my own age and what they were going through. I mean, people's killed and their families killed right there in front of them, and that it was so hard for some of these people to talk about what they were talking about. There was a Colombian girl who, she lost her father in the Civil War, so her mother went to work to bring money home for the family, and she ultimately became the mother of her brothers and sisters. And just seeing like what she had gone through, this struggle, how strong it made her, but how it had affected her. I mean,
she had to grow up overnight.
Yeah, no one as a youth should go through that, And that's why war should be illegal, because it takes away, it kills the fathers and mothers, and it kills the sons and daughters, and no matter what side you're on, it doesn't make it right. Just because they're not from your country, it's still a person, and that's what we fail to see. We fail to see people as people rather than as citizens of this country or citizens of that country. And we need to maintain our identities as countries, because obviously what works for one people won't work for another, but we just need to find a way that we can make everything work peacefully. It's one world and it's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. So we need to respect each other and that space that everyone needs as individuals and as countries. Yeah.
Are there other specifics that you feel the conference accomplished?
I was very inspired by it all. I mean, I kind of went into the conference having no real expectation, sort of feeling like I could change the world in a week. It disappointed me a little coming back and knowing that I hadn't changed the world, but I had learned a lot more about like how I feel and how others feel, and that relationship between all, like, just our brothers and sisters. I mean, just seeing people really coming together for the same purpose from all these different walks of life, just meeting here to say that violence is unacceptable and that we need to do something to change that. And I just think the sheer numbers that were there proved that it was like effective. This idea is catching on, and we need to address that in government, in our homes, in our families, and in ourselves. I think that's where it starts, is really within ourselves. That projection is world peace.
Well, everyone is really my brother and sister, not just people related to me by blood.
Right.
Everyone is my brother and sister. Everyone is my father and mother. I mean, everyone is. Everyone is my son or my daughter. It's true, But
and we're all going through the same, maybe not the same struggle, but the same type of struggle or a struggle. I went to Europe this summer with Rice High School on a comparative cultures trip, and we went to Lourdes for a little while. I was very affected by that. All these people, all these suffering people coming to find some healing. It really made me sad, but inspired me at the same time. All these emotions kind of just happen. You see how fragile we are as people and how we forget that so easily when we don't need to know it. Like, if we're not hurt, we're not feeling fragile. We're feeling like we could do anything. And it's letting go of that ego, and just recognizing the divinity within each of us, and how would we treat each other if we saw that, every time we looked at someone and said, well, I see God in this person. I see, such a fragile person right there. How am I going to treat them? How am I going to treat myself? How are we going to treat all these issues that are so important to people?
I have several responses. They're all sort of coming at once. When you got back here, how did some of your friends react to your input, to what you had learned, to your experiences at The Hague? Were they appreciative, interested, or bored?
No, they were very excited for me. I think that they knew that it was a really important thing for me to do. But a lot of my friends are involved in Amnesty International.
I'm a member also,
oh, really?
and my wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have a chapter at Rice, and
great.
I came back, and it was neat that I could talk about this with the people involved in it. It brought a better understanding for them why they're writing. I mean, you understand why you're writing when you're writing the letters, because, I mean, you have that in front of you. But really, so many tragedies that are happening, have happened to people. We really need to be there for each other. We, like, as Americans, have it pretty easy, you know, compared to a lot of the world. And that was one thing that I really recognized there, too. We're in a position where we can speak out against our government if we feel that it's wrong. We can speak out as freely as we would like to. We have the ability to be of any religion that we choose. We can write whatever we want to. We have all these rights, and we take them for granted. Because there's people who, I know there was a Tibetan boy who wanted to leave his country to come to the conference and wasn't allowed to come. And that was the situation for a lot of the Tibetan kids that I had heard wanted to come but weren't able to. And there's probably many other people who couldn't get out of their countries for whatever reason it may be, but just the atrocities that happen, and we've never experienced them here. We just need to be compassionate to others and really try to understand where people have come from and what that makes them. I think it's really important.
Did anyone come from China?
I didn't actually meet anyone from China, but I'm sure there were some people there. I'm sure there were. There were people from everywhere. Yeah.
How many numbers were present?
It was pretty high thousands. I think about 5,000. I think that was the last number that I had heard. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of energy, a lot of people just coming, you know, just the fact that people showed up, 5,000 people showed up in support of peace. I think that's an incredible statement. Were
there any guidelines offered for all of us to try to bring about an end to war? Were there any approaches that we don't normally use that were laid forth? I mean, was there a perspective that you learned that you haven't heard expressed before here in the States?
No, I think it was a lot of addressing those issues again in the same sort of format, but on a more universal level. I think that we all know education is very important for children, especially for women in countries that are just developing and that are sort of in poverty. Education is very important. It's the only way that we can be really upwardly mobile. Education was a huge issue. Child soldiers was a huge issue. Yeah, basically just the Universal Declaration of Human Rights sort of affirming that and the importance of people having these rights and abilities to do sort of what they should be able to do as humans.
Well, all I'm thinking of is, for example, I haven't done anything about it yet, but President Clinton, when he gave his speech in Washington when we were about to leave 1999 and enter the year 2000, at the end of his speech, it wasn't a bad speech, but at the end of his speech, he said, "God bless America." I thought that was terrible. He should have said, "God bless all the peoples of the world."
Yeah.
And we had been through the television technology, we had been watching sunrise at the Dead Sea in Israel. We had been on Easter Island. We had been all over the world and seeing how people were celebrating the advent of the year 2000 from all different cultures everywhere. And then we hear the president say, "God bless America." I mean, he should have said, God bless all of humanity, and all our nations all over the world, large and small. But he didn't, and that was, I'm not one who hates the president, but I was disappointed that he said that. If you want to bring God into it, okay, but then it's God's world, not just the United States of America.
Right. I think as Americans we are very Western-centric. I mean, I think, I was talking about this with someone the other day, if you were to ask somebody what you thought the average citizen of the world would look like, most Americans would say they'd be American, But it's
really?
Not. Yeah, it's the Chinese person is the average citizen. I mean, we would never think of that, I don't think, as Americans. We wouldn't think of that.
Well, I sometimes tease people saying that my nickname, Lee, is the most common name in the world. More people are named Lee than Bill or Bob or anything else. And then they say, oh, they think for a minute and look kind of puzzled. And then they say, oh, yes, of course, the Chinese. 2 billion Chinese. There are a lot of Lees there. But it takes them a while to remember.
Yeah, it's true. We sort of see ourselves as the center, and everything sort of stems out from that. But we need to realize that we are important as individuals, but we're a cog in the wheel, and we need to accept that to make things roll smoothly. There's obviously a lot we can do as individuals, and there's a lot that we need to do as individuals, but we need to recognize the fact that we are a part of a greater plan, a greater world, a greater humanity, and we need to respect that while finding out who we are as individuals and while doing what we need to do as individuals, I think. Definitely.
Was there anything said about the violence in our television industry and in our motion picture industry, which is, I guess, is promulgated worldwide? I mean, I sometimes bitterly joke with my family that you don't have a good TV show unless you have at least 1 or 2 cars crashing into each other, going through plate glass windows, people being shot dead and seeing the blood pouring out of them. I mean, that makes a good movie, Right. I mean, when I was a kid, those things generally weren't shown. You might see someone falling down from a gunshot, but you wouldn't see the blood. They just would fall down and lie still. But now we exalt in the blood. Right. We exalt in the violence. Was there any comment about how we are encouraging violence in this country?
Yeah, well, there was on the first day the burning of small arms, where a lot of guns, weapons were burnt, sort of on this teepee structure. They were kind of placed on there and sort of just started a fire and burned them. Sort of a statement more than
at The Hague.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it was very neat. It was very neat. There were lots of people there. I guess another testament to the fact that culturally we're exposed to all these things is there was a lot of arts. There was a lot of music. There was a lot of plays put on and musicals. There was some really great ways to express ourselves peacefully. There were movies. They did have movies, peaceful movies. So it was neat. Yeah, definitely just sort of a swing in the other direction. It's out there. We just need to find it, and we need to. I mean, I'm not sure censorship's the right word or the right thing, but I think we definitely need to be aware of what we're allowing ourselves to watch, what we're allowing our families to watch, our children to watch, because we really do have this ability to teach peace to everyone, but especially the younger generation. I mean, I read an article in Newsweek about Kosovo, how Albanian children come back to school saying how they want to go kill Serbs someday.
Oh.
And it's terrible. Like,
When they grow up, that's what they want to do.
yeah, when you hear that, you think, wow, if we can teach these children how to hate other people, then we must be able to teach them how to love. Through our actions, through our words. It's so important. Children just soak that right up. Yeah, we definitely need to be aware of what we're allowing ourselves to do, to watch. When we feel angry, we need to watch how we project that outwardly. I mean, we all, you know, do stuff that we wish that maybe we hadn't, and we all say things that we wish that we hadn't, but we really need to watch what we say and what we do to other people. I know I'm definitely guilty of that.
We do
I'm
too in this
definitely
country.
guilty of that. But
Beat his brains out. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not a good expression.
yeah, we definitely need to be aware of what we allow ourselves to be a part of. Because what we see, what we watch, what we listen to become us. That's what we allow ourselves to be influenced by. We really do need to watch that. Yeah.
I was talking with you on the phone a little bit about how some of the animal kingdom seem to be more intelligent than humans, because when two wolves are fighting over being the head of a pack of wolves, they'll battle, but then when it's obvious who's losing, then the one who is losing will roll over and lie down with its throat bare, so the one that is winning could rip the throat out. But the one, they have some animal understanding. So when that happens, they call this the alpha wolf position. When that happens, then the one who's winning doesn't rip the other throat out and accepts the fact that that person, that wolf, has won, and the one that has lost, unlike human beings, who are lower evidently than wolves,
Yeah.
the one that's lost doesn't try to ambush the one that won and take away its leadership of the pack. I don't understand why, animals in some ways are wiser and more intelligent about making peace than people.
Yeah, we do. We exploit others' weaknesses all the time. I mean, historically, that's why most wars have started. That's why there's genocide. That's why we can't get along. We need to recognize everyone's fragility and just really play off of that and really support other people and realize that someday that may be us in that position where they're about to rip our throat out. How are we going to want them to treat us? We really need to understand this do unto others concept as we would have them do unto us.
It's not a new concept at all. Why has it not been, it's been, at least what you were just quoting goes back to Jesus 2,000 years ago. Why has it not been followed?
Power, I think the nature of power, people feel empowered through violence. People feel stronger when they have somebody to put down. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Hitler right now, but I'm thinking the big bully at school too.
Sure. Everyone's afraid of him.
Yeah. And we need to speak up against that and make it the popular thing. Violence is not okay. That's just really what we need to understand, that there will be conflict. Of course there's going to be conflict. I think differently than you. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see eye to eye on everything, but the way that we allow ourselves to act outwardly I mean, what do we really want people to see in us, and how are we going to want other people to treat us when maybe we're in a moment that we may be the victim, or we may be more susceptible? You know, how are we going to want them to treat us?
I used to live in New York City and ride the subway all the time, and all of us were sometimes afraid that, particularly if you rode the subway late at night, it might not be a wise thing to do. You might be robbed or knifed or
Right.
mugged, or something could happen to you. But even on even in those circumstances, if you were in a car that had a number of people in it, if everyone in the car got up and started to yell at the person who was beginning to abuse someone, that abuser would stop because of the peer pressure.
Right.
But no one does. But at least in the past, anyway, when I was living in New York, the normal attitude is just to sort of sit there and look at the floor and hope this harassing person doesn't come and bother you.
Right.
No sense of responsibility for the person who is being harassed.
Right. Well, that was the power of The Hague. It's called by civil society. Government leaders were obviously invited. Everyone was invited, but the majority of people that were there were just the average citizen, you know? That was the importance of it, that this world belongs to all of us equally. Just because a person is a head of state or the president of the United States, should they be able to declare war on another country any more than you or I should be able to? Should they not have to ask us
I think Congress has to, and that's what at least would be said in this country, that the president can't declare war, I think, unless Congress agrees.
Right. But there hasn't been a war declared in the United States since before World War.
Oh, I see. You're thinking of the Korean War and the Vietnamese War. Yeah. So we have wars, but we don't have wars.
Or we maybe use NATO to bomb other countries, and I don't know. I feel like
we're not being
there's
honest.
not enough maybe checks. Yeah, there's loopholes to get around all those things that we've set up that are really great in theory, but in practice they are being taken advantage of. As far as I can see, that's really what I think.
And the government, if they do have a police action or whatever we're going to call it, or war, they're going to, if they need to, they're going to draft people who are 18 or 19 because they make the best troops.
Right.
They're more apt to do whatever they're told.
Right.
Whereas when you get older, you say, that may be dangerous. I don't know if I want to do that. But when you're younger, you're more apt to say, yes, sir. And
do as you're told.
And do what you're told.
Sort of the brave, courageous thing that we feel that is necessary. But maybe the brave and courageous thing is to say that this is wrong and that there's a different way that we can go about it. I think there's another way of looking at it.
Well, I guess we would say then you need to be literally a conscientious objector and be identified that way. You know, that I refuse to go and shoot people.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a difficult situation.
It's not easy. No, it's not easy. Well, I think it's time for us to, yes, it's 12:15. It's time for us to invite all of you viewers to phone in and talk with this lady who has been thinking very hard about violence, about war, about killing, about international attitudes. She's been at The Hague. We've been talking with Lisa Senecal, and she went to The Hague last May and had this big conference about this whole subject of killing and war and violence. And so she's here as our guest, and I think you have a special opportunity to be able to talk with her via your telephone. Just pick it up and dial the number that's on the screen. You'll get you right into the control room, and we can have your voice put on our loudspeaker, and we can have a good conversation with you. Please call us. We have only 15 minutes for that, because at 12:30 we have to terminate the program. But we have time right now, and please call us. I'm the Reverend Lee Udell, the host for Struggles of the Spirit. So we await your call. And as soon as we know that you're on the line, we'll stop whatever we're saying and we'll connect with you. So please give us a ring. So, as we get to this part of the program, we're sort of thinking about, is there anything you haven't said that you want to talk about, or is there any summary you want to make while we're waiting for the public to call in?
I'm not sure. I think just sort of summarizing again, what we surround ourselves by, very important. I think that listening to others and what others have to say, because we all do have something to teach each other, it's a really important step to realizing that human connection that we're perhaps lacking, and maybe that's why we choose violence over peaceful resolution. Just coming to a better understanding of who we are as ourselves, finding that inner peace. Once we accept ourselves, it's very easy to accept others, I think.
Could you say what that means in specifically once we accept ourselves? What are you saying when you say that?
Well, when we accept ourselves in our perfections and imperfections.
Oh, okay.
Everything that there is about us. That's when I think we can really recognize the beauty in diversity. It's our strength. It really is. It makes us interesting. It makes humanity interesting.
Be honest about what we're feeling, thinking, wanting, not
I love
wanting.
having discussions with people who have a totally different take on something, because you always come out of that seeing another perspective, and in that perspective you learn. That's how we learn. It's by challenging ourselves to think in a different way, to see things in a different way, and it's really important to recognizing each other as humans, and that's important, especially going into this new millennium where, we can take all the hurt and all the pain and all the good things that we've learned and all these great strategies and advancements that we've made, and then say, where are we going from here? It's a time of reconciliation. It's a time to put back behind us everything that we maybe wish hadn't happened, but really, since it has happened, we can learn from it and just say what really affected us, what makes us happy, what made us feel sad or hurt, and just really learn from that.
Really.
Yeah, definitely. It's this time where, it's the future. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can definitely look forward to it. But it happens now, in the present. What are we going to do? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. What am I going to do to make the world a more peaceful place, to make my family a more peaceful family, to make myself come to more peaceful terms?
Not necessarily what others are going to do, but what I'm going to do.
Right.
That's where it starts. That's where it starts.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, like I was complaining about President Clinton saying, "God bless America." I really ought to, call on the White House and leave a message of protest.
Or we can stand here and say, "God bless the world," and maybe that's just as important. Maybe that's. Yeah. I feel that God would feel that it's just as important hearing it from you or I, Bill Clinton. It doesn't matter. We're feeling it. We're saying it. I'm sure there's other people out there who are feeling it and saying it. And it's just a time where we need to recognize that. And feeling important as an individual, feeling like, yes, I can make a difference. That is, that's the only way it's going to happen. If we sit back and say, it can't happen because I'm just an individual. No, it's going to happen because I am an individual. This is what I think, and this is important. It's really, I think that's the importance of having that innocence and energy and idealness.
That youth have?
Yeah, that youth have. And that's really what I found was very prevalent at The Hague. Just this incredible synergy between these people, but incredible desire to change, to really get something done. Definitely. Cora Weiss, who was the president of the Hague Appeal for Peace, was in Vermont for a little while. She spoke at Rice, she spoke at BHS, and up at UVM. It's just really neat that she came, you know. She came and she has this incredible energy also. She really feels that she's getting something done, and that's what we need. We need everyone to feel like we can get something done, and we will. Definitely.
I like your dedication to the issues involved. I want to encourage our viewers to call. We haven't had a phone call yet, and this is a rare opportunity to talk with someone who's been thinking hard. There is a call. Good. Please, Karen, hook up the person calling, and we can have a conversation. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
This is Jeff. You've been talking about like a lot of anti-war, but how can you say that when we live in America and we owe so much of our success to war? Just the last one, the war in Vietnam. It wasn't for we destroyed the economic situation in the near the Pacific and the countries around Vietnam and Thailand. We destroyed their economic abilities, and because of that, we are now such a prosperous nation. How can we like naysay to our army? Because we really do owe a lot to our army and what that war has given us.
There's a...
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Lisa?
Okay. I feel like what you're saying, I don't think that we owe all of our prosperity to our ability to engage in war. I think that our prosperity has a lot to do with many other things. But I think that if, as a world community, we decide to abolish war, that will become not an issue. And that's what The Hague was about. It was about, on world terms, not just American terms, to abolish war.
But the only, because there's countries like Pakistan and India who are going to want to start war, who have such anger, such non-rational anger against each other. But the only way we can keep peace is through the threat of war. And the only reason America, or at least I'm not sure on a national level, but Britain and the major powers can make peace and can make economic prosperity throughout the world is through the threat of war and through the threat of what the army has done for us.
Right. Well, the threat of war.
And the threat of war, I think, in my opinion, is really the same thing as war, because it's just it's using the same terrible means.
Right. And I just think that if, on world terms, I understand it's very idealistic. If we were to abolish war, that it would not become an issue. It would not be an issue. And I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
I have questions, and that's really where I am right now. I have lots of questions, and
abolishing war. What's your question when you think about abolishing war? How do you pose that question? Is it possible?
That's the question. Is it possible? And if it was possible, it would be, I think, it's a great idea right now. That was definitely one of the things that we talked about at The Hague. But I think that if there's enough people who decide that war is not the right thing to be doing, then we can abolish war, that we can make it wrong. I think that it's scary that you're right. Pakistan and all these places have atomic power, and what's stopping them from using it? That's true. There's not much stopping them, and that's where we need to say, it's happening, but is it right? That's the question.
And then, I don't know, just something caught my mind was Napoleon saying somewhat of a quote we're going to bring peace through a lot of war.
Right.
And that, in my realistic opinion, would be almost the only way, because until you conquer everyone who has the sources, the means to produce nuclear weapons and to make sure that they don't have it, that seems the only way that they're going to be war, because every 20 years there's going to be someone like Saddam Hussein or Hitler who's going to come to power because people like the idea of being in power. And I don't think that we can ever stop the way people, the rare person thinks like that. Like every couple decades, someone like that will come along. And I don't see how any way we can stop that. Except we only can stop them. There will always be people like that, but we have to stop them coming in power somehow. And I don't know how any of them could do that.
Okay. I feel like
you know what I mean?
going to war with a country or the world, as you're saying, to conquer the world, it makes no sense to go to war with the world to sit down and say, okay, now we're all world citizens and we're going to just get along, because that won't happen either. I don't think that war is the only way to make the world a more peaceful place. I think that there's no way that war could make
we
it a peaceful place.
We ought to conclude this particular conversation because there may be someone else on the line.
All right, that sounds fine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Well, not at the moment.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we have 5 minutes left. I hope another viewer will phone in. We welcome you. Even a few minutes is worthwhile for us and hopefully for you. We're talking about the whole subject of violence and war and killing. And our guest is Lisa Senecal. Another call. Good.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm excellent. I just have a question. What people in peace do you admire? Like, who speaks out for peace? And
Who do I admire?
do you admire? Yeah.
Well, I guess the big ones are obviously Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. They took nonviolence to an incredible place. Nonviolence does not mean no violence. It means the majority of that change is nonviolent. I think that it takes a lot for humans, for us to let go of that sort of desire maybe to be violent,
Yeah.
to sort of resolve this conflict in the easiest way possible, which is like a physical resolution. And obviously it takes more to sit down and really, really listen to what someone has to say to us, because nobody feels a certain way because they don't honestly feel that adamant about it. You know, we wouldn't go to war if we felt it wasn't a big issue. So if we sat down and said, let's listen to what each side has to say and really, really listen, then we can learn from that and hopefully come to terms with the issue.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are these people you know?
Yeah, well, Jeff goes to Rice. I'm not sure who that was. It sounded like Ethan, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, we have about a minute and a half. We could squeeze one more call in if you would like to. Have a quickie for someone to call in and to speak with Lisa here. We're talking about war and violence and how we can stop it. I think you have a vital concern, and I think there's a national, you might even say a wave of good, hard, rational thinking about violence and how do we, in our own country, stop violence. Not so much about war itself, but how do we stop hurting each other?
Violence is real. It happens. There are conflicts. We just need to realize as people we won't survive if we only look to kill each other. I think we need to respect.
Thank you, Lisa, for being here. Our time is up. We've been speaking with Lisa Senecal from Rice High School about the subject of violence and death and war. A rather heavy subject.
Yes.
Thank you for coming
Thank you for having
and
me.
talking with us, sharing with us your heart and your mind and your experience at The Hague this last summer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.